Sector 92 Gamma was a lonely stretch of space, silent, vast, and largely unexplored. The Vailori exploratory cruiser Seren Light glided through the darkness with quiet grace, its golden hull reflecting the light of a nearby neutron star. Aboard the ship, Captain Raval Tiro stood at the observation deck, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the void. The Vailori were a diplomatic race, known for their cautious exploration and methodical data gathering. For decades, they had charted the outer rims of known space, avoiding conflict and seeking peaceful contact wherever possible. "Unusual energy reading ahead, Captain," reported Vesha, the science officer. Her voice was calm, but her fingers danced quickly over the console. "Localized. High output. Artificial in nature." Raval turned. "Unknown origin?" "No known registry match," Vesha replied. "It's not Vailori, not Zarnik, not Solari, and not natural." Raval moved to the console. The energy source pulsed like a deep space beacon, steady, contained, and far too powerful for anything unarmed. "Send a standard contact ping," he said. A shimmering blue pulse arced from the Seren Light, a peaceful greeting encoded with their diplomatic signatures and language files. For a moment, space returned to silence. Then came the answer, but not in words. A soft vibration hummed through the ship's hull. The distant blackness shimmered as something enormous emerged from behind a moon's shadow. At first it appeared as a jagged silhouette, but as it turned into the starlight, its true form became clear. It was a ship, a massive vessel, nearly 3 times the length of the Seren Light, with thick, angular plating, a hull darker than vacuum, and red markings etched like scars across its surface. It had no visible windows, no decorative structure, just armor, turrets, purpose. The bridge went quiet. "Is that a dreadnought?" one officer whispered. Revel's voice was steady. "No known design." "Vesha, any life signs?" She nodded, slowly. "Confirmed. Human life forms. Multiple." The bridge grew colder. Humans were still a mystery to the Vailori. Their home world had been quiet for decades, their signals sparse. They didn't attend galactic councils, and they never asked for help. But the few rumors that did circulate all said the same thing. They had endured something terrible, and they had rebuilt alone. Before Raval could issue a new command, the alien vessel began to move, slowly, deliberately. Massive turrets rotated to face outward. Energy readings surged. "No weapons fire," Vesha said quickly, "but they've gone to full power. Defensive posture." Raval stared at the readings. "This isn't an offensive maneuver, they're warning us." He stepped forward. "Send another message, assure them we mean no harm." Vesha transmitted a peaceful reply, outlining their exploration mission and stating their neutral intent. Then they waited. The reply came quickly. Audio only. A human voice filled the bridge. Calm. Precise. "This is Captain Elaine Rourke of the human warship Horizon's Edge. You have entered a classified patrol sector. Please state your intent and maintain a distance of 20,000 kilometers." Raval's brow furrowed. There was no anger in her voice, only control. He responded in kind. "This is Captain Raval Tiro of the Vailori Commonwealth vessel, Seren Light. We are on a peaceful exploratory mission, no hostile intent. We will adjust course immediately." "Received," Captain Rourke said. "No further action is required. Safe travels." The transmission ended. The massive vessel remained. In place, weapons powered but silent. Raval turned to his crew. "Begin a slow retreat. Do not provoke." As the Seren Light arced away from the patrol zone, its crew remained silent. Even at a distance, the presence of the human ship was overwhelming. Its size was one thing, but the energy output, the armor, density, the silent coordination, It all pointed to one undeniable truth. This was not a warship built to conquer. It was built to survive anything. Raval watched it fade into the distance, still unmoving, still watching. "We may have just seen the edge of human strength," he murmured. "And it's not something I wish to test." No one disagreed. 3. Days had passed since the Valori cruiser Seren Light encountered the human dreadnought Horizon's Edge, but the tension still clung to the air aboard the ship. The crew moved quietly, professionally, but every conversation seemed to circle back to the same subject. The ship that watched them without blinking, that held its weapons in silence, yet made its message unmistakably clear. Captain Raval Tiro sat in his private quarters, reviewing the encounter logs for the 6th time. Every scan, every voice transmission, every subtle shift in the warship's systems. The data confirmed what he already knew deep down. It hadn't been a threat. It had been a message. A presence like that didn't demand attention through action. It earned it through silence and certainty. A chime echoed from the comm panel. "Captain," Vesha's voice said calmly, "we've received a transmission from High Command. You're to report immediately. Live session." Raval straightened and activated the terminal. The insignia of the Valori High Council flickered to life, and the face of Counselor Dareth Vaughn appeared, a dignified elder with deep lines on his silver-hued face. "Captain Tiro," the counselor said, "you encountered a human warship." "Yes, sir, the Horizon's Edge." Vaughn nodded slowly. "We've reviewed your logs. They're impressive and concerning. Did they make any demands?" "No demands," Raval said. "Just a boundary, one they enforced without raising a weapon. They made it clear we were being watched." Vaughn studied him. "And what is your assessment, Captain?" Raval hesitated, then spoke evenly. "They weren't looking for a fight, but they're more than prepared for one. That ship, it wasn't built as a deterrent. It was built to endure something we can't yet imagine, and it was watching us not as an enemy, but as something far more cautious." There was a pause. "Your report has been passed to the Council and shared with 2 other exploration teams who've picked up similar signals," Vaughn said. "We believe there are at least 3 human warships patrolling outer sectors, silent, hidden, fully powered." Reval's eyes narrowed. "Patrolling?" "Yes," Vaughn replied. "And no formal announcement, no territory claims, no diplomatic embassies. They are simply present." Raval leaned back. "So we weren't the first." "You were the first to come close enough to speak," Vaughn corrected, "and to leave unharmed." The transmission ended with a simple directive: hold position, monitor any further signals, and avoid any zones matching the energy signature of Horizon's Edge. But Raval couldn't shake the feeling that humanity hadn't meant to hide or threaten. They had simply placed themselves where they could not be ignored. Aboard the Horizon's Edge, Captain Elaine Rourke reviewed the incident log on a projection screen in her command quarters. She'd read Captain Tiro's final words 3 times. "We may have just seen the edge of human strength." She smiled faintly, not in pride, but in understanding. "Bridge," she called out. "Status?" Her second-in-command, Commander Elias Grant, answered through the comm. "All systems stable. Valori ship is out of sensor range. No additional contact since." "Good," she replied. "Maintain current vector. Passive scans." Only humanity had not broadcast their return to deep space. They didn't need to. Their ships were few, but each was built like a fortress, operated by crews trained to survive, not conquer. Earth had learned the hard way what it meant to face extinction, and vowed never to repeat that lesson. Elaine walked toward the observation window, where the stars stretched endlessly. "They saw us," she whispered, "and they'll remember." Elsewhere, across the stars, a council of another species, the Thalari, gathered in secret. They had picked up the same energy signature, near their borders and watch the Valori encounter unfold in intercepted fragments. Their conclusion was not one of fear, but of calculation. If humanity had ships like that hidden and quiet, then Earth was no longer a mystery. It was a variable, one that could not be predicted. Contact must be made, one of the Thalari elders said. Not with words, but with preparation. If the humans rise again, the stars will shift. And so the quiet presence of the horizon's edge began to echo across the galaxy. Not through battle, not through conquest, but through wonder, and a growing sense that something powerful had returned. The stars over Relay Station. Varda shimmered like scattered diamonds across a sheet of black ice. It was a peaceful outpost, built on the edge of known Valori space. Traffic was light. Smugglers occasionally passed through, traders bartered, rare goods, and scouts filed data logs for future missions. That peace ended when a shadow moved across the station's long-range scanners. Unidentified vessel entering passive range, reported technician Saren as she studied the data feed. No transponder, no origin code, and it's big. Administrator Levick, an old Valori with a reputation for calm under pressure, stepped into the control center and glanced at the projection. At first, it looked like a drifting asteroid, dark and uneven. Then its shape resolved. Angled hull, embedded turrets, no windows. Levick recognized the outline immediately. It's human, he said softly. Everyone went silent. A moment later, a communication link opened on its own. No encryption, no formal channel. Just a voice. This is Captain Elaine Rourke of the human warship Horizon's Edge. We are transiting the region on a patrol route. There is no cause for concern. Administrator Levick activated the station's comm. This is Station Varda. You are not in our registry. May I ask the nature of your patrol? There was a short pause. Observation, Captain Rourke replied. And presence. Levick exchanged a glance with Saren, then responded. Understood, Captain. You are welcome to pass through. We will record your presence as peaceful. Thank you, the human captain said. No contact required. The signal ended. The station crew stood in stunned silence as the massive ship glided past, silent and composed. Its movement was precise, without hesitation. No escort needed. It did not dock. It did not scan the station. It simply moved. Like a storm passing in the distance, impossible to stop but choosing not to touch the ground. Saren looked at the data feed again. That ship could hold off an entire armada. Or end one, Levick added. Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon's Edge, the mood was quiet but focused. The crew had grown used to this kind of silence, not from boredom, but discipline. Aboard a ship like this, no energy was wasted. Every motion, every order, every conversation served a purpose. Captain Rourke stood with Commander Grant at the ship's strategic table. A star map hovered in front of them, with several systems marked in red, uncharted, unclaimed, or unstable, and among them, new markers were beginning to appear. Distant alien fleets moving strangely, probes launched toward old Earth war zones. Drones vanishing in deep space. They're watching us, Grant said. They should be, Rourke replied. She looked at the image of Station Varda fading behind them. Word is spreading. Every ship that sees us carries the story forward. We don't need to send messages. They're sending them for us. Grant frowned. And if someone tests that story? Rourke turned toward the viewport, where the stars stretched endlessly. Then we remind them that peace is not weakness, she said, and silence is not fear. Far beyond the reach of the patrol zone, in the heart of the Thalari Command, Citadel, a war council gathered. They had reviewed every transmission, every scan, every rumor of the human dreadnought. They don't ask for allies, one general said. They don't posture or provoke, but their silence is louder than most empires, the The council's leader, a tall figure with translucent skin and sharp features, stood in front of the image of the horizon's edge. We once believed the humans were a quiet species, wounded by history, content to remain in their corner of space, the leader said. But now we understand. They were healing. Around the chamber, nods of agreement passed in silence. They have not returned to conquer. They have returned to ensure they never kneel again. Back aboard Horizon's Edge, a new signal arrived. Not a challenge, not a distress call, but an invitation. The Vailori had formally requested a diplomatic meeting, not at their home world, but aboard the dreadnought itself. Captain Rourke considered the request and smiled. "They're ready," she said. "Prepare the chamber." For the first time in generations, the galaxy had not just heard of humanity, they had seen what it had become. And many were beginning to understand. Humanity did not rise with noise. It rose with silence, steel, and the memory of a long-forgotten fire. The Vailori diplomatic shuttle approached Horizon's Edge with calculated grace, its golden hull gleaming in the light of a distant binary star. Inside the vessel, Ambassador Asha Vayan reviewed her notes for the third time, though she already knew them by heart. Protocol, language files, cultural references, everything the Vailori had gathered about humanity over the years, however little it was. Still, none of it prepared her for what she was about to step into. As her shuttle neared the massive dreadnought, the sheer scale of the human vessel came into view. It was like a fortress floating in the void, silent and still, yet undeniably alive. Its black plating absorbed light instead of reflecting it, and its faint pulse of energy thrummed through space like a distant drumbeat. Asha swallowed quietly. This was not diplomacy as she knew it. This was walking into the center of gravity. "Final docking sequence complete," the pilot said. "They've granted permission to board, one escort only." She nodded, adjusted her robe, and stood. "Then, let's begin." The docking bay was vast, functional, and clean. No ornamental details, no bright colors, just steel, lights, and control panels that blinked with quiet efficiency. Waiting at the end of the platform was a single figure. Captain Elaine Rourke, she, stepped forward, offering a hand in the human tradition. "Ambassador Vayan, welcome aboard Horizon's Edge." Asha accepted the gesture, her mind already noting the captain's posture. Confident but not arrogant, relaxed but clearly alert. "Thank you for receiving me. I wasn't certain the invitation would be accepted." Rourke turned and began walking beside her through the corridor. "We don't often host guests, but we believe in clarity, and sometimes clarity requires conversation." They moved through the interior of the ship, high ceilings, armored, walls, and subtle signs of layered redundancy in everything. The dreadnought was designed with one objective: continue functioning no matter what. "Your ship is formidable," Asha said, careful with her words. "It's a reflection of what we've been through," Rourke answered simply. They entered a private meeting chamber, efficient, shielded, and quiet. A small table sat at the center, with two chairs facing each other, no guards, no weapons, just the two of them. Asha seated herself and studied the human captain carefully. "I've reviewed the data from our earlier encounter. Your ship's systems are unlike anything in our archives. May I ask, how many others like Horizon's Edge exist?" Rourke smiled faintly. "Enough." Asha didn't press further. She understood the message. Earth had more, but would never say how many. Uncertainty was part of the protection. "I'd like to understand something, Captain," Asha said. "Why return now? Why reveal your strength after so long in the shadows?" Rourke looked out the small observation panel at the stars. "Because we've seen what happens when we stay quiet too long. Our silence gave rise to threats we had to fight alone. We lost billions. We rebuilt with a promise that if we ever returned to the stars, We'd never do so weak. Never again. Asha's expression softened. Not a show of power. A shield. Rourke nodded. Exactly. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Asha leaned forward. There are species who won't understand your restraint. They will see your ship and feel fear, or worse, opportunity. Rourke met her gaze. Then we hope they speak to us, as you have. And if they don't? Rourke's reply was quiet. Then we are prepared. Back on the Valori homeworld, a full diplomatic assembly watched the encounter via secure transmission. Asha's calm, Rourke's clarity, and the interior of the dreadnought spoke volumes without raising a single weapon. They aren't what we expected, one counselor said. There's something else entirely. Not a threat, added another, but not to be underestimated. They've made themselves clear, the council leader said at last. If they return to the stars, it will be on their terms. And if peace is possible, we should meet them where they stand. As Horizon's Edge escorted the Valori shuttle back toward neutral space, a new signal came through. A long-range transmission from a fringe system. A Corvani scout ship had gone dark, and it had last reported detecting something massive. Captain. Rourke narrowed her eyes as the data flowed in. Set course, she ordered. Let's see who else is waking up. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of humanity. Now, others were starting to move. The Corvani vessel, Speartip, was designed for stealth, small, fast, and nearly invisible to standard detection arrays. For years, the Corvani had operated in the shadows of other civilizations, observing, recording, and reporting to their high command without ever being noticed. But this time, something noticed them first, and Speartip never returned. Captain Rourke stood at the center of Horizon's Edge's command deck, her arms crossed as she stared at the data projection. The report was short and sparse. The Corvani vessel's final transmission had been a sensor ping, something massive, possibly metallic, eclipsing background radiation in a remote star system known only as Atria 9. Then silence. The message was routed through a relay beacon and picked up by Valori systems before reaching human intelligence. No one else had responded yet. Do we know what it was? Commander Grant asked, analyzing the data beside her. Not enough to confirm, Rourke replied. But the last ping shows a gravity wake. Whatever it was, it moved like a ship, a big one. Grant frowned. Could be another dreadnought. Not ours, not theirs. Rourke nodded. Possibly. Or something older. They'd heard rumors, even during Earth's long silence. Ancient machines, abandoned fleets, lost constructs left drifting in the void from wars that predated modern records. Most were dismissed as myths, but a Corvani scout going dark wasn't myth. It was a signal, and Horizon's Edge was built to answer such signals. In orbit over Atria 9, the void stretched wide and motionless until Horizon's Edge emerged from its slipstream. No distortion trails, no sound. One moment, there was nothing. The next, the human warship hung silently over the dark planet below. The crew deployed sensor drones immediately. Long-range scans swept the surface and upper orbit. The world below was a frozen wasteland, cracked with ancient canyons and cloaked in electromagnetic storms. No cities, no signs of civilization. But something was there. Rourke studied the faint energy reading. There's a signal buried under the crust, weak, encrypted, non-human. Vesha, the Valori science officer now aboard as part of a growing exchange agreement, leaned closer. It's not Valori, not Corvani, and not ours. It predates known galactic codes. Grant glanced at Rourke. A remnant or a trap? Rourke replied. Either way, we go in prepared. She gave the order, and a combat probe launched from the ship's lower hull, descending silently into Atria 9's thin atmosphere. The crew watched as it pierced the storm layer, its feed pulsing through static. At first, all they saw were ruins, twisted, towers of metal long since broken, half buried in ice and ash. Then the probe's camera caught it. A ship, half submerged in a crater covered in frost and time. Its hull wasn't made of any known alloy. It gleamed with a color that seemed to shift with light, almost resisting the eye's attempt to focus. Symbols, ancient and unfamiliar, were carved along its edge in deep, sweeping arcs. Vesha whispered, "That's not just old. That's pre-Union era. Thousands of years." And then the probe's signal went dark. No warning, no explosion, just silence. Rourke stepped forward. "Recall the drones, power shields, all hands to alert status." "Do we deploy?" Grant asked. Rourke considered, then shook her head. "No, we wait." Elsewhere in the sector, the Thalari High Command intercepted the same signal. Unlike the Velori, they didn't ask questions. They sent a task fleet, 10 ships, armed, ready. They didn't know Horizon's Edge was already there. Back aboard the human dreadnought, the sensor officer raised his voice. "New contacts incoming, Thalari fleet, slipstream signatures detected. They'll be here in minutes." Grant looked to Rourke. "What's their posture?" "High energy output. Shields up. They're not here for peace." Rourke didn't blink. "Then we show them what it means to be prepared." She didn't raise weapons. Not yet. Instead, she ordered a slow rotation of the ship, one that brought its heaviest guns into full alignment with orbit. It was a move both defensive and deliberate. A single declaration in the language every fleet understood. "We're not leaving, and we're not afraid." As the Thalari ships dropped into orbit over Atria 9, their commanders saw the shadow waiting for them. One ship. Silent, but in its stillness, there was something unmistakable. Power, and the memory of a galaxy that once forgot the name of Earth, but would never forget it again. The silence in orbit was thick, as if space itself held its breath. The Thalari fleet hung poised around Atria 9 like a circle of predators, their ship's weapons humming with contained energy. The massive human dreadnought. Horizon's Edge waited alone, its black hull absorbing the distant starlight without a flicker. Captain Elaine Rourke stood on the bridge, watching the unfolding situation with sharp, unyielding eyes. Commander Elias Grant approached, quietly. "They're not responding to hails." Rourke nodded. "They don't want dialogue. They want to test us." The bridge crew worked in perfect sync. Sensor arrays swept the area, tracking every movement of the Thalari vessels, analyzing power, fluctuations, and shielding patterns. Vesha, the Velori science officer, leaned over a console. "Their fleet is coordinated, but cautious. They don't want to provoke a battle. Yet." Rourke's voice was calm but firm. "Neither do we. But if they choose to strike, we will respond with full force." Suddenly, the communications panel lit up. A new message, unencrypted. A voice echoed through the chamber. Cold, direct, authoritative. "This is Admiral Kalen Thar of the Thalari fleet. You are in forbidden space. Withdraw immediately, or we will consider you hostile." Rourke's lips tightened. She stepped forward and keyed her own response. "This is Captain Elaine Rourke of the human warship Horizon's Edge. We are here on peaceful observation. We intend no harm, but we will not retreat." The message sent, the bridge held its breath. The tension broke with a low, rumbling vibration through the ship. The Thalari fleet's largest cruiser powered up its weapon systems. "They're testing our resolve," Grant said. Rourke's fingers danced across the controls. "Raise shields to full power. Prepare defense protocols." The horizon's edge's shields flared alive, shimmering across the hull like liquid steel. The ship itself seemed to grow heavier, its systems humming with restrained power. A volley of plasma bolts erupted from the Thalari cruiser, bright streaks of blue light arcing toward the human warship. The horizon's edge absorbed the strike. With minimal damage, its countermeasures disabled several incoming shots, and the remaining plasma bolts fizzled against the advanced shielding. The crew watched, steady, but alert. Rourke's voice cut through the tension. They test, we respond. Let's show them what humans are made of. With precise coordination, the horizon's edge launched a calibrated pulse wave, an electromagnetic blast designed to disable, not destroy. The pulse swept outward, targeting the Thalari fleet's sensor grids. Several Thalari ships flickered and lost contact briefly, their systems scrambling to recover. The message was clear. We can control the battlefield, but we choose to limit the fight. Admiral Thar's reply was immediate. We will reconsider your presence. Prepare for further engagement. As communications stalled, Vesha returned to the science console. Her fingers flew across the display. Captain, there's something. In the ruins below, an energy source pulsing in synchronization with the ancient ship. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Could it be a power core? Or a beacon, Vesha said. Sending a signal. It's encrypted, but it's alive. The implications rippled through the crew. Whatever lay beneath Atria 9 wasn't dead. It might still be waiting. Send a probe with a decryption module, Rourke ordered. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Below the planet's frozen surface, the probe descended into the icy cavern. Its lights illuminated ancient machinery, massive, complex, and covered in unfamiliar markings. Then, the probe's sensors triggered an automated response. A hidden door slid open, revealing a chamber filled with dormant technology. The room pulsed with a faint blue glow, and the probe's camera caught intricate devices lined along the walls. Suddenly, the chamber filled with holographic images, maps of star systems, unknown coordinates, and data streams streaming like waterfalls. Of light. Captain, Vesha whispered, this is a command center, and it's still functioning. Activate a recording, Rourke said. A holographic figure flickered to life. A long-dead alien commander. Its voice echoed in the chamber, ancient but clear. To those who find this sanctuary, beware the awakening of the Voidborn. They seek to reclaim what was lost and will bring devastation in their path. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Voidborn? Grant asked. Ancient enemies, thought eradicated millennia ago, Vesha replied. If they are returning, it explains the Thalari's aggressive posture. Rourke stood straighter. Then we're not just fighting for observation anymore. We're defending against a threat that could unmake the galaxy. Back on the bridge, the tension reached a breaking point. The Thalari fleet began a slow, deliberate advance. Rourke looked to her crew. Prepare for all scenarios. This is no longer a patrol. It's a line in the stars. We hold it, or we lose everything. The crew readied themselves, hearts steady. Because humanity's silence was not weakness, it was a warning, and the galaxy was about to hear it loud and clear. The void around Atria 9 pulsed with growing energy as the Thalari fleet closed in, their ships forming a tight formation of warships, sleek, deadly, and determined. The horizon's edge sat alone, a black monolith against the cold starlight. Its crew poised on the knife's edge of conflict. Captain Elaine Rourke moved calmly among her officers, her presence steadying the tension like a stone in a raging river. Status report, she demanded as she returned to the bridge. Commander Grant's fingers flew over the console. The Thalari fleet is within firing range. Their shield emitters are at full capacity. They've deployed electronic warfare pods to disrupt our targeting systems. Vesha's voice cut in from the science station. The probe has completed its scan of the ruins. The ancient command center below is still active, but the encryption on the main data core is far more complex than we anticipated. Rourke nodded, thoughtfully. We'll need full access to that data if we want to understand the Voidborn warning. Can we breach it remotely? Not yet, Vesha replied. But if we can get a physical team down there, we might bypass some security systems. Not without knowing what's waiting for them, Rourke said firmly. We can't sacrifice a team blindly. On the view screen, the lead Thalari cruiser shifted slightly, opening a channel. Admiral Kalen Thar's stern visage appeared, framed by the cold lines of his uniform. "This is your final warning, Captain Rourke," he said. "Leave this system or face destruction. The Voidborn are a myth, and you use their name to justify your presence here. You threaten the balance of power. We will not allow it." Rourke's response was calm and clear. "We are not here to start a war, Admiral, but we will defend ourselves. If the Voidborn return, it is not humanity alone that will suffer." There was a long pause. Then Thar's face disappeared. The tension broke like a held breath with a sudden surge. The Thalari ships opened fire. Bright streaks of plasma tore through the void, targeting the human dreadnought. The Horizon's Edge responded with measured precision. Its weapons systems activated one by one, railguns firing magnetic projectiles at near light speed, pulse cannons sending arcs of energy ripping through enemy formations. Shields flared as impacts rocked the ship, but its hull held firm. The battle was brutal and fast, a clash of power and will. Below decks, the comms officer reported rapidly changing sensor data. "The electronic warfare pods are disrupting our targeting, Captain. We're compensating, but it's slowing us down." Rourke's eyes never left the battle. "Adapt and overcome. Use manual targeting if you have to." Her voice was calm, but inside, a fierce determination burned. Suddenly, Vesha's console beeped urgently. "Captain, new data from the probe. The command center is a repository of weapons schematics and defensive measures, ancient technologies, capable of reshaping the battlefield. If we access this, we could gain an advantage." Rourke made a quick decision. "Prepare a strike team. Send them down. But be ready to extract immediately if the battle turns against us." In a landing shuttle, a small group of soldiers and scientists descended through Atria 9's storm-racked atmosphere. The ruins sprawled beneath them, silent and vast. Inside the chamber, the strike team's leader, Lieutenant Mara Chen, moved. Swiftly. "The encryption is deeper than expected," she said through comms. "But we're making progress." Suddenly, alarms blared. "The system is activating," a technician warned. "Some kind of automated defense." Walls shifted. Energy barriers flickered into existence, trapping the team inside. Back in orbit, the battle raged. The Thalari fleet pressed their assault, pushing Horizon's Edge to its limits. But the human ship's countermeasures grew sharper. The Dreadnought's engineers adapted weapon frequencies, circumventing electronic interference and striking key points in enemy formations. One by one, Thalari ships were crippled or forced to retreat. In the ruins, Lieutenant Chen's team fought against time and the ancient defense systems. With quick thinking, Chen hacked the barriers, creating an opening. "We've breached the core," she announced. "Downloading data now." The holographic warning from the ancient commander flickered again. "Beware the Voidborn. They will return." On the bridge of Horizon's Edge, Vesha's face was pale as data streamed in. "This technology, it's unlike anything we've seen. If used wisely, it could shift the tide of war across the galaxy." Rourke's voice was resolute. "Then we must ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." The crew prepared for what was next, because the battle was not just for Atria 9, it was for the future of all who called the stars home. The Horizon's Edge drifted amid the smoking wreckage of the shattered Thalari fleet. The vast silence that followed the storm of plasma and pulse fire felt almost unreal. Stars shimmered coldly beyond the viewport, indifferent to the fragile lives and struggles below. Captain Elaine Rourke stood at the center of the bridge, her gaze steady but thoughtful. The battle had been fierce, but the humans had prevailed, not through overwhelming numbers, but through resilience, strategy, and an unyielding spirit that even their adversaries had not fully understood until now. Commander Elias Grant approached, voice low but steady. "Damage report? Minor structural breaches," Chief Engineer Park responded from her station. "Shield generators held, weapons systems intact. We're operational." Good. Rourke's eyes drifted to the hollow map, pulsing softly on. The console, the ancient data they had recovered from the ruins of Atria 9. Vast schematics and weapon designs of a civilization long lost, yet not forgotten. Vesha, standing beside Rourke, broke the silence. The Voidborn warning was real. These ancient weapons and defense networks could be reactivated. If the Thalari seek to claim them for conquest, it will trigger a chain reaction no one wants. Rourke nodded slowly. "Then our mission is clear. We protect this legacy, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy." The landing team, led by Lieutenant Mara Chen, was safely back aboard. They brought with them encrypted data cores containing the secrets of the ancient command center and a detailed analysis of the Voidborn threat. Chen reported with measured pride, "We faced automated defenses, but the team's quick thinking kept us alive. The technology here could change the course of future wars or prevent them." Rourke clasped her hands behind her back. "Then it's our responsibility to ensure it is used wisely." Meanwhile, the Thalari survivors retreated, their admiral's communications revealing a grudging respect. Admiral Kalen Thar's voice crackled through the comms channel. "Captain Rourke, today, you and your people have demonstrated a power the galaxy has long underestimated. The legend of Earth is no longer myth. We will reconsider our stance." Rourke replied evenly. "Let this be the beginning of a new understanding, one where strength is tempered by respect." The aftermath rippled beyond the battlefield. Word of the Horizon's Edge's victory spread quickly, shaking the political alliances and power structures across multiple star systems. Humanity, once silent and overlooked, had spoken. And their voice echoed through the cosmos. On the bridge, Rourke gazed out toward the stars. "What now?" Grant asked. Rourke smiled softly. "We learn, we prepare, and we keep the promise of peace, not by weakness, but by showing that when pushed, humanity will rise." Vesha added quietly, "The galaxy is vast, and the shadows hold many secrets. But now, Earth and its people have a place among the stars, not as outsiders, but as protectors." The Horizon's Edge set course away from Atria 9, carrying with it the weight of newfound power and responsibility. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer hiding in silence. They were ready to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them, because Earth was watching, and Earth was not alone.